This is Opinion City, where pro wrestling gets the conversation it deserves. Real voices, real opinions, live every Sunday.
How much of Eden Elysian is actually you, and how much is a character you built from the ground up?
Okay, so I often refer to the human host. You're not talking to the human host right now. Hi, sorry.
Okay.
But if you were talking,
wow, okay,
I would pretty much tell you that the main difference between the two is, on one hand, you have died, came back from the dead, became sort of this strange figure between life and death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got into wrestling. And on the other hand, you pretty much have died, came back to life, decided to become a wrestler.
Gotcha.
And they are very much intertwined ideas. Eden Poison existed before Eden Elysian did.
Mm-hmm.
Eden Elysian became more prominent after I died, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Right.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is an interesting part of this story. But I think that is what makes me and both forms of me different than a lot of other people on the indies that have similar aesthetics or vibes, is that there is a realness. There is a very grounded in reality part of this, and how I feel about death, afterlife, dying, living with the knowledge that you could die.
Right.
So a lot of that is reflected in how I present myself.
Okay, so we definitely want to talk about the process of coming up with all of this, character stuff, but we got to put that to the side for a moment, because we can't just keep talking about it. Without talking about it. All right, so tell us all about this. Tell us all about this dying. Let's get.
Yeah.
Let's
get right down to it. Right down to it. Right.
Just throw it right out there.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
In fact, I had an encounter with someone at an indie show recently where they walked up to me, and I guess they had seen me make a post about it. And they walked up to me, and the first thing they said was, "Is it true? Did you really die?" Like,
God.
Well,
yeah. Shout out Dylan Cross over there.
Oh,
Dylan
Dylan Cross.
That's
Did you really die? And
Wow,
he
that's
did
great.
not mean it negatively.
Right,
No,
of course not.
I
Of course.
I can picture him in my mind saying that. Like,
Right.
that's so him.
Is an interesting part of it, is that because I very purposely blur many lines,
Okay.
sometimes people do not know if
Right.
that is just, did Eden really die, or does Eden just say she died?
Right.
No, I did really die. So I'll sort of briefly fill you in on that story, which is that I've been chronically ill most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in and out of medical stuff. I got type 1 diabetes when I was 10.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
I got EDS and a few other degenerative immune system conditions when I was in high school. I used to be super into athletic stuff. I really wanted to do pro wrestling. I wanted to do a lot of other things when I was younger. And my mobility, unfortunately, just started to degrade. I would have days where I literally could not get out of bed in college. There were a lot of days in college where I either I would not sleep for weeks, or I would sleep for like 5 days straight.
Wow.
And I was still trying to be very involved in theater and music and all of these things I really loved. But I was clearly aware that something was wrong. I was pursuing a very real world job at the time. And I had a lot of expectations that was the stuff that I should do. A lot of expectations from my my family, from the human hosts family. Obviously, that's who you're talking to right now. But that I would do normal things, that I would do all of these real world things. And I kind of always knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I also didn't want to let people down. And I think that's a very real thing I still grapple with, is
Sure.
this idea of letting people down and this immense fear of letting myself down. But that sort of escalated until eventually there was a day where I just literally could not get up. Something happened completely with my my body, with my immune system, and I was pretty much paralyzed.
Wow.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah, I went to the hospital. Actually, we found out that was pretty much 8 years ago of the day I debuted last week.
Wow.
It was
That's
also March 26th, which
crazy.
is wild. Yeah. I was in college. I kind of fought the idea of being in a wheelchair for several years, and then eventually I ended up in a wheelchair, full mobility aids. It was really upsetting. I got told by a lot of doctors that I wasn't going to make it past 25, that I was going to die. I'm
Jeez.
29 now. I got told that I was never going to walk again multiple times from multiple doctors. They couldn't even figure out what was wrong with me for a really long period of time.
Jeez.
I still have very nebulous, weird diagnoses that are basically just chronic pain, chronic fatigue. There's something wrong. It's like, okay, well, we know. So I live with very high pain even now. I tell people that my normal is like an 8 or a 9.
Wow.
And I just live with that. I still have either no feeling in my legs or what feels like almost like bees in my legs.
Oh,
That's
boy.
crazy.
Call them eels, like leg eels. The eels are here. So this obviously makes wrestling a scary thing to think about doing.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, I made the decision to start trying to walk again. Everyone told me not to. Did it anyway, relearned how to walk, started going to the gym, started getting into things like lifting and things like that. From that point, I started managing a little because I was still very involved in wrestling. I have a lot of friends. So I started managing a little. I started going, well, maybe there's some route, which is sort of how I found my way into deathmatch and all that world, was because
Yeah, sure.
in the beginning, the thought was, well, I have a really high pain tolerance.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Probably sort of like, I'll be fine if it's just like bleeding and character where I can do that.
Right.
And inevitably, I just kind of couldn't get the voice to shut off. So that leads us to me dying. And as I said, it's actually technically the second time I've died, but the first time I was much younger. So the second time I died was in August. It was right around my birthday. And essentially, I passed out from something else. I had some sort of stomach bug virus. I passed out. I sent a message to some people in a deathmatch group, some other friends. I was like, I just feel a little sick. And with me, anyone that knows me well knows that if I say I'm a little sick, I could just like, that's just how I am.
Right.
I'm often just a little sick and I just push through things because that's just the person I am. But I went unconscious. And while I was unconscious, I couldn't take insulin.
Wow.
So my blood sugar went up to 1,800.
Holy crap.
It's supposed to be 120.
Yeah, that's insane. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So my friends broke into the house because they figured something was wrong. They broke in the next morning and I was unconscious on the floor. I died in the ambulance. I was dead for 20 minutes. So I think that means I beat Nick Gage, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. That
Yeah,
literally,
and I was in a coma for 3.5 days. I woke up from the coma. I had a long phone call, actually with think some deathmatch people, and we had this long phone call. And at the end of the phone call, I was like, I think I need to quit my job.
yeah.
And they were like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, I think I'm quitting my real world job. And I think I'm going to get a survival job doing something.
Sure.
And I think I want to do wrestling. And everyone was like, what? It's like, yeah, I think I want to start full-time training wrestling. I think I'm doing this. And so I called around, I emailed around a few places. I think I was literally still in the hospital at this time. Started to get
Crazy.
some feelers out. Eventually, obviously, got discharged, got cleared to do it.
Right.
Obviously, this is a hard sell. There are some wrestling schools that basically shut me down.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. I can't blame them for it. It's a risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Drew, who I had actually talked to a year before, because a year before I had sent an email asking, because I had thought about it and I chickened out, and as he says it, I ghosted him and just I just went, nope, maybe I'm not gonna wrestle.
Yeah.
Maybe that's fine.
Yeah. It's funny.
And a year later, I sort of showed back up and was like, do you remember that thing? The only big thing that's changed is that I've died now.
Right.
Disability stuff I told you, and I technically am cleared, so you should let me do this.
That's Opinion City. New episodes live every Sunday on YouTube. And to our Patreon members, thank you for supporting independent wrestling media. We'll see you next time.